One of the things I tried to help me get my eating and my binges under control was intermittent fasting. It worked for me for a time, and then things gradually started to go wrong, and here's what happened. So, intermittent fasting, if you're not familiar with it, it's the concept of eating in a certain window and then fasting in a certain window. So, it might be something like I've seen, 4 hours of eating, 20 hours of fasting, 6 hours of eating, 18 hours of fasting. And for me personally, what I tried was 8 hours of eating and 16 hours of fasting. So I would eat from 12 noon until 8 p.m. and then from 8 p.m. until 12 noon the following day, no food. Some of these supposed benefits of intermittent fasting are it can help with your body's insulin sensitivity. It allows your gut to rest and heal. It can reduce stress and inflammation in the body. And there's a few more, but my main objective was control over my food and some weight loss. So when I first started, that first week, especially those first 3 or 4 days, were rough. Just that last couple of hours of my fasting window until I got to noon and I could eat, that felt very challenging. I was absolutely starving by the time my eating window started, and portion control was difficult just because that hunger had kind of built up over hours. So I was kind of immediately on the back foot. After a few days, probably about a week, and I settled into routine and things started to feel pretty fine on that front. But what was crucial for me is that pretty much from day one, I wasn't having anything extra and I wasn't binging in the evenings, which is kind of what my weakness was. Eating in a set window meant I was fuller by the time I got to dinner time, by the time I got to the evening, and I was less likely to binge because I was already feeling full, I was already feeling satisfied. It worked well for me for about 3 or 4 months. My binges pretty much stopped and I started to lose a little bit of weight as well. Around month 4, that's when things started to go wrong. But because I have ADHD and I'm prone to getting hyperfixated on things, I started to become a little bit obsessive about sticking to my eating window, and that had a knock-on effect because I was starting to plan my days and pretty much every aspect of my life around trying to fit things around that eating window. It started to have an impact on my fitness and my exercise routine. And I don't lead the most active social life, but it started to have an impact on the social life I do lead as well. So I kind of felt like I was trying to survive for 16 hours and then just live for 8 hours in a 24-hour day. Not ideal. Plus, that feeling of fullness in the evening started to wear off, and I was gradually finding I was eating a little bit more. I was still picking, I was still snacking. I still weirdly had that 8 p.m. set cutoff time, but the discipline I had in the evenings was starting to slip. There were a couple of things which started to happen which started to give me some cause for concern as well. So number one was, as soon as I broke my fast, I would go from feeling okay and not particularly hungry to absolutely starving. I don't really know why, but it's like, I guess my body was able to suppress the hunger, and then as soon as I had something, the floodgates kind of opened. And it was quite bad. It was to the extent that as soon as I started eating, a few minutes later, if I didn't eat more, I started trembling. It's not a great feeling. It's not a great situation to be in. And, it doesn't happen to everyone with intermittent fasting, so I can't blame it on that. But this is what happened with me. And more critically, my mind and body also only seemed to be in tune with either feeling absolutely starving or absolutely stuffed. It just seemed to be hard to process any kind of sensation in between. So say I was feeling full but not overly full and not hungry, my body was really not able to pick that up. So I kind of was either at one extreme or the other. And then gradually my evening meal started to get bigger and those binges started to happen again. I started binging again and I went backwards with the progress I'd already made. So in terms of where I'm at now, I'm still intermittent fasting, except I'm doing a 10-hour window. So I'm eating from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. What that's doing is that I'm not feeling that surge of hunger as soon as I start eating, but it still gives me a little bit of structure around my eating pattern. And more importantly, I've stopped stressing about if I happen to go a little bit either side of that. So if I eat earlier or eat a little bit later, it doesn't bother me anymore. So I guess not only has it helped me stabilize my hunger levels, it's helped me get back in tune with actually that feeling of feeling full. And I've stopped feeling like I'm trying to survive 16 hours to try and live in that 8-hour period. I feel like I'm much more balanced, much more steady. So what's the lesson here? To be honest, I actually don't know. Intermittent fasting can work. It does still help me. Just I needed to modify it. So I guess if we were to wrap that up, listen to your body and trust the signals it's giving you. Some structure and rules around food and eating patterns is good, but don't let it control you. And I guess doing something imperfectly that you can sustain Like with me not stressing about eating outside of my eating window, it's going to be better for you than trying to do something perfectly which you can't sustain. That's a very long-winded way of saying yes, I think intermittent fasting can help with binge eating disorder. It has helped me, but just be mindful of the signals, of the hints that your body is giving you. That's what I've got for you today. Any comments, questions, let me know.